I think the problem here aren't the electric trucks, but the diesel trucks. It's the energy transition at its best, transporting wind turbines with an electric truck. In these mountains, the truck uses less energy than when driving straight. The limitation is not the battery, but the driving and rest times. With the calculations from this trip, we save tens of thousands every year using an electric truck. Week 3, as an electric trucker, starts today. But first, I wanted to thank all of you for the comments and likes on the last videos. It really helps a lot. One topic I'll definitely cover more in future videos is the costs at charging stations. Public charging is the opposite of what we have here. Here we control the electricity price, but at public stations, we're dependent on the operators. If there's any way to optimize and pay the lowest possible price for electricity, I'll try to show it to you. My day has already started. I grabbed the Scania, hooked up a brand new box trailer and did a quick departure check. But even when they say the trailer is empty, you should always take a quick look inside. It has happened before that goods were loaded by mistake or into the wrong trailer. Today I'll be joining the boss for 2 customer meetings. This morning we'll visit a customer to showcase the electric trucks, because they're interested in making their transport electric. And in the afternoon, a customer will be visiting us. My task today is to provide some insights and share my knowledge. Besides that, we'll see what else this week holds and what routes I'll take this time. What I really like about this company is that everything is built around sustainability. We have a fleet of 8 fully electric MG5s, plus the boss's Tesla. Employees and even apprentices can use these vehicles. All this makes so much sense when you produce your own electricity, build a charging park, and use electric trucks anyway. We just weighed the truck and trailer at a neighboring company and it weighs 17.9 tons. The lady inside said that a regular diesel truck with a similar trailer weighs around 16 tons. So, almost exactly the 2 tons that the electric truck is allowed to weigh more. There's no loss in load capacity or any disadvantage with the electric truck. The only limitation are the axle loads, because they haven't been increased for electric trucks. A normal axle can handle 8 tons, and a motorized axle can handle 11.5 tons. But you can use it without any restrictions, and it has never become an issue so far. I parked here in a bit of an awkward spot, but they told me I can stand here for a bit. Anyway, a cool feature I just noticed while parking is that when you want to secure the truck with the hazard lights on, like I am doing right now, or when you have to take a break or sleep in a less than ideal spot, you can turn off the ignition and the lights stay on. There is a very soft clicking sound, and the light for the hazard lights is still blinking. So the hazard lights are still on, but it's not annoying inside. On this channel, we don't want to only highlight the positives, but also talk about the negative and annoying things. And one thing that bothers me about the Scania is how the recuperation is implemented. When the Volvo recuperates and slows down, you can reduce or override it with the accelerator. Basically how one-pedal driving works in electric cars. But with the Scania, as soon as you touch the pedal, the recuperation cuts off completely, leading to a really rough and bumpy driving experience. Let me try again. I start regenerating, then if I want a bit less, boom, it's completely gone. So in the end, you have to work a lot with the retarder lever, just like with a traditional truck. Maybe this is fine for a regular truck driver, but for someone used to driving electric cars, it's disappointing. You can drive the Volvo so smoothly without having to constantly change the retarder. Minus points for the Scania, but it's something you get used to, and I've always reached my destination, so it's more of a minor issue. I'm now here at the port in Emden, and there are tons of wind turbine parts everywhere. These are the structures used to assemble the wind turbines, and I'll be transporting some of them today. It's the energy transition at its best. Transporting wind turbines with an electric truck. Now I'm waiting for someone to come and load me up, and then I'll head south. The day has already been pretty long, so I might run into issues with my driving hours, so I'll need to find a place to take a break and hopefully charge the truck. But for now, it's a peaceful evening here at the port of Emden. I reached the charging park where I've been before with the Volvo, but this time with much better weather and a nice evening atmosphere. I've got some company at the chargers. A Skoda Enyaq has made its way here, even though Aral Pulse has better charging spots. The charging speed is only 239 kilowatts, while the station is capable of 480 kilowatts, and last time it was charging much faster. But since this is my overnight break anyway, and I have to take at least 9 hours of rest, I don't really mind right now. In general, the charging park is having a few issues and many chargers are not working. But I don't care too much at the moment. I'm here, I made it, and I can start fully charged tomorrow. I'll take a short walk, unplug, and spend my first night in the electric truck. I've made it myself comfortable in here. I moved the driver's seat forward, tilted the steering wheel, and folded the passenger seat down. and the bed can be extended to give me more room to lie down. There's surprisingly a lot of space here. I'm about to close the windows and pull the curtains, and I've already turned on the air conditioning. In about 7 hours after I wake up, I'll check how much energy it used. I don't think it'll be much. We'll see how it goes. For now, good night. My first night is over, and it was surprisingly comfortable. I finished the pre-departure check, and I'm ready to hit the road. The battery is at 99%, so after cooling for about 7 hours, it only used 1% of the battery. The temperature difference wasn't that huge, though. But I'm not sure how the heating system works, whether it has a heat pump or a standard climate control system like in combustion trucks. If it's the latter, the power would be taken from the 24-volt battery, which is now at 90%, but I didn't check what it showed before, so I need more tests to figure that out. Next, I'm driving to the wind farm, which is quite challenging because there are no proper roads, and I had to double-check Google Maps and the truck GPS to make sure that I won't end up in a dead end. That would be the worst-case scenario. I've made it to the farm in one piece. I've put on a safety vest and helmet, and this is what I'm transporting. Normally, you don't talk about the cargo because it's nobody's business, but this one is hard to overlook. It's an encasing for the base of a wind turbine. There are many logistics companies in the area delivering these parts, and they have a huge crane here for unloading. In terms of transport and assignment, this is my highlight so far, because this is a proactive way to help the energy transition. What's important about this trip is the consumption. I've usually managed to use around 1 kilowatt hour per kilometer or 1.6 kilowatt hours per mile, driving on country roads and highways. Now it's 1.38 kilowatt hours per kilometer or 2.23 per mile. I can't really blame the topography, it's more about the load, which is far from aerodynamic. The wind gets stuck in the encasing and you can feel it while driving. These elements could be transported in a flatbed trailer when you pull back the roof and load it with the crane, but it's a bit more work. But that means for route and charge planning, you really have to consider your load and the type of trailer you're using, because it affects how far you can go. I'm currently taking my break at a nice aerial charging park. I'm just south of Paderborn, and this is definitely one where you need to maneuver and detach the trailer. But when I arrived, there was nobody around, so I was able to charge on the left side without detaching the trailer. Maybe this is a little revenge for all the times I've had my charging spots blocked by combustion cars. I'm slightly overlapping into the second charging spot, but that doesn't bother me because I don't want to share the power anyway. If two vehicles plug in at the charging station, they share the power, but my truck alone charges at 300 kilowatts. And these are Alpatronic chargers with cooled cables. They're a bit thicker, and you can tell by the HPC logo. I've been charging for 20 minutes now, and will check if I still have the maximum charging power after 45 minutes when my break is up. So, this is a little follow-up to my last test. My break is over in 5 minutes, and we still have the full charging power of 300 kilowatts. This proves that the cooled cables are necessary and superior for trucks. Surprisingly, these cables are just as warm as the air-cooled ones, but delivered significantly more power. So we completed this test. The next stop is hopefully at Ionity, where the truck should charge at 350 kilowatts. I'm back at the depot because it's too late to unload at the delivery point. Before I park somewhere publicly and pay a lot for electricity, I'm going to plug in here, where the power is a bit cheaper. Today I drove a total of 500 kilometers or 310 miles, which is a record so far with this truck. And I received a call from dispatch. They asked if I would be confident to drive a tour with 5 delivery stops from Leer to Munich and then further to Kufstein in Austria. And I said confidently, "Hell yeah!" Because that's exactly what I want to show on this channel, and the route even goes through the Kassel mountains, which will be a real stress test for this vehicle. So the cargo I have on board right now will be delivered by someone else tomorrow, and I'll switch to a different trailer. I'll charge the truck overnight, and then we see tomorrow how it performs over 800 kilometers, or 500 miles. But first, I'll head to Kaufland to stock up on some groceries and make this place a bit more livable, and then we're off for the first real long-distance trip to bust some myths. When I arrived today, the first battery storage units were already delivered, but there should be more to come. They're labeled SAI Storage Neo, which is a battery storage system by Siemens. The road trip can begin. The Scania is fully charged and ready for the journey. Unfortunately, I can't precondition the interior or the batteries because it can only be done via the app, but I don't have app access yet. Otherwise, I'm really excited because I have new straps, ratchets, and edge protectors, which makes it even more fun. The trailer I'm about to pick up is also brand new and hasn't been equipped yet. I've arrived at the customer, but there's a slight delay because I'm waiting for a just-in-time delivery that is still on its way. Unfortunately, it's also for the last unloading point, which means the goods need to go all the way to the front, which delays the loading process. This can happen and is not a problem at the moment. But as a truck driver, you have to adhere not only to the maximum of 10 hours of driving per day and 45-minute rest breaks, but also to shift time. This means I must have a minimum of 9 hours of rest each day, and I can only work for a total of 15 hours. This includes working time, driving time, rest breaks, and standby time, and these 15 hours are slowly ticking away right now. I can't change this situation, but it shows how much a truck driver has to manage his time. I hope I get out of here quickly so I can still make some progress toward Munich. The trailer is loaded, but the loading process was quite complicated because the trailer had to be opened from the top and then everything was loaded in with a crane. But they got it done quickly, which made me really happy. It's now 11 a.m. and I've already spent over 3 hours of my shift time, which means I have about 12 hours left. That includes 10 hours of driving and 2 45-minute breaks, so it's a tight schedule. I also need to find a parking spot in the evening, which shows that this job can get very tense and stressful sometimes. But a big shout out to this company. Their facilities were super clean and they even had showers. This is definitely a highlight in a trucker's life. Not all companies offer it, but this is a very positive example. I'm now driving on country roads because one of the exits at the highway interchange is closed, but that's not a problem and I'm not losing any time. I'm now south of Paderborn, where I was recently for the wind turbines, and you can see the amount of wind turbines stretching all the way to the horizon. My next charging station is only 40 kilometers away, and physically speaking, electricity always takes the shortest path, which means that today, this truck is running on wind power. When you see it like this, you wonder why we haven't done all this much earlier. But of course, the beginning is difficult, and we are still in the middle of it.
Tja, das ist ungewohnt, wenn die LKW so schnell beschleunigen.
Must be strange when the trucks accelerate so quickly. This is a trucker's nightmare. Getting stuck right before the charging station with an almost empty battery. I only have 1.5 kilometers or about 1 mile left, and there are an incredible number of trucks on the road. But based on my experience, if I were to be stuck in this traffic jam, I could run the climate control for nearly 2 weeks with the current battery level. So there's no need to worry about getting stranded or freezing to death. Well, I can't drive in there, so that means I'll have to park the trailer first. Even if I get creative, there's no way I'd fit in there. There is another electric Volvo truck, and I don't know what he's planning, but he seems to think, oh, this will work. Is he actually going to park there? Because, to be honest, that wouldn't be very nice.
Macht's.
But he's doing it.
Das ist echt zu still.
He's actually parking there. I'm now at Ionity with the Scania. I've plugged it in, and we've already loaded 173 kilowatt hours in the last 30 minutes, charging at the maximum 350 kilowatts of the station. This means I don't need to charge longer than my break, and then it's off towards the Kassel mountains. The electric Volvo that parked here luckily is not blocking all chargers. The ones on the other side are still accessible.
I've been driving this electric truck for 6 months now, for a total of 65,000 kilometers, or 40,000 miles, 600 kilometers, or 370 miles every day, 5 days a week. I was driving a diesel for the same route before, but now I have to work 2 extra hours because of the charging. But the driving is nicer. It's quieter, but it also handles the road better because it's a bit heavier. The only issue is the truck charging infrastructure. but I have my 3 locations that I regularly charge at.
While I was attaching the trailer,
the
the next electric truck sneaked in here. The right charging port of the Volvo definitely has an advantage here. This is a crazy charging party, and surprisingly, there's still enough space for cars. The first charging stop was perfect. I charged from 35% to 90% in 45 minutes. We now have a range of 420 kilometers, or 260 miles, and there are still 237 kilometers, or 147 miles to the next charging station, so I have plenty of buffer. This means I'm ready for the Kassel Mountains. It was nice to have some conversations, and it's encouraging to see more electric trucks. It's great that many logistics companies have the courage to make a change. Surely life hasn't necessarily become easier with the electric truck, but it's still important to them. And I think that's fantastic. Of course, there are still some hiccups with infrastructure and charging parks for trucks, but everything is in motion now, and these stories should demonstrate that it already works and highlight the solutions we need in the coming years to get everyone to switch to electric trucks. The traffic here is intense. There is a whole line of trucks that need to get through Kassel or around it, so it's no wonder the charging park was occupied with electric trucks. So far, it's been quite relaxing because I've been driving downhill a lot. I have a consumption of 0.45 kilowatt hours per kilometer or 0.73 kilowatt hours per mile. If it stays this way, the Kassel Mountains shouldn't be a problem, but I believe there's still some uphill driving to come. Now we have a big incline here, and you can see that there's a lane on the right just for trucks that are getting slower. With the Scania, I can overtake them easily, but still I'm stuck behind other trucks because I'm not allowed to use the left 2 lanes. I think the problem here aren't the electric trucks, but the diesel trucks. So far, everything is going smoothly. I've set the cruise control to 88, and I can also adjust how much it can exceed the limit when rolling downhill, but it manages everything on its own, including the recuperation. We've already gone up and down the mountains, and we have a consumption of 0.86 kilowatt hours per kilometer or 1.39 kilowatt hours per mile, which means in these mountains the truck uses less energy than when driving straight. If that doesn't clear up a few misconceptions, I don't know what will. And I'm going full speed uphill, I'm not driving slow at all. And so far I haven't used the mechanical brakes once. Everything is being recuperated. This is amazing for the durability of the trailer and the truck, and for the range. In 10 years, people will wonder why we used to drive down the mountains with hot brakes. We arrived at the second charging stop, and there's another electric truck. But we're not charging at Arel here, because we can charge at Ionity cheaper and faster, even though they are not the most truck-friendly. And the Scania fits perfectly and isn't blocking anything. The spots back there aren't actual charging spaces yet, just prepped ones, so it works out well. I've already activated the charging via the app, and it's currently charging at 333 kilowatts. Now let's have a look at the consumption we had in the Kassel Mountains. And I'm completely surprised. The overall consumption we've had on this tour is 0.92 kilowatt hours per kilometer or 1.48 kilowatt hours per mile. We've driven 582 kilometers or 361 miles, and I still have a bit of driving time left, so we could go even further. But 0.92 kilowatt hours is really amazing. And on the last leg from the last charging station to here, it was 0.88 kilowatt hours per kilometer or 1.42 kilowatt hours per mile. That's incredible. These mountains are no challenge for this vehicle. But I should also mention that there was a bit of traffic before Kassel, and in the Kassel Mountains, there's often a no overtaking rule for trucks, so you end up driving behind slow diesel trucks. But when I could, I always switched to the left lane to overtake them. But in the end, these mountains weren't a challenge at all, and this is the lowest consumption I've ever recorded. People wouldn't believe this. And the second charging stop is over after exactly 45 minutes. We recharged 255 kilowatt hours, and the truck is almost full again. So I think this proves that the limitation is not the truck, but the driving and rest times. The truck could keep on driving, but I'm running out of work time. And there's so much buffer that I believe it will work without any problems in winter, but we'll find that out later. The workday is coming to an end, and I'm actually reaching the limits of my driving and rest times, so it's not the shift time that's an issue, but really the driving time. I'm allowed to drive up to 10 hours twice a week, and now I have 47 minutes left to find a parking spot. I found a car charging station from Arel Pulse with a lot of space. Actually, I don't even need to charge because I'm at 84%. With this battery level, I can easily get into Munich tomorrow, so I don't need to charge overnight. That definitely makes things easier. I arrived in Gremsdorf, which is near Nuremberg. It looks very suitable for trucks, but it's actually not. There's very little space here, and as soon as I parked, someone from the gas station came and asked if I was going to stay overnight. But I told him, no, I have to charge. I didn't mention that I was going to sleep here as well. Anyway, it's an interesting spot. There's enough space to park. The access road is a bit limited, but there are plenty of charging spots. And you can enter from another side as well. I'll close the curtains now and go to bed. Good night.
Und ich habe mir einfach mal die kleinste Straße in ganz München ausgesucht.
It seems like I picked the smallest street in all of Munich. There's another truck back there, and I managed to just squeeze past it. Now I'm quickly unloading, and then I'll get out of here. I'm now in this beautiful Bavarian region near Lake Starnberg. I love it here, but driving this big truck around is quite challenging. This road here is already a luxury. There were many much smaller roads along the way, but everything went well, and honestly, these are the roads where you really learn to drive. Compared to this, driving on the highway is a piece of cake. Everything is done for the day, and it's off to Austria for the last unloading spot. I arrived with only 16% battery left, but I hit the absolute jackpot. I'm south of Munich and there is lots of traffic because the holidays have started. I thought everything would be full, but I found a spot for the trailer and a charging station that was free. Unfortunately, there are only 4 Ionity chargers, and they only charge at 280 kilowatts. But it doesn't bother me since I'll park and stay here overnight. When I unhitched, a neighbor named Alex came over. When he learned that I was driving an electric truck, he shared a bit of his story too. He drives beverages and mentioned that he gets gifts from customers every once in a while. And he ended up equipping me with a full supply of beer, which is super cool. So many thanks again, Alex. Of course, don't drink and drive, but I'll enjoy it over the weekend. I'm in Holzkirchen Süd and I was lucky enough to find a spot where I could drop my trailer. I actually drove the wrong way, which you really shouldn't do, but I'm glad it wasn't too busy despite the holiday traffic. I'm now charging to 100% because I'm not in any rush. The customer isn't far away and is closed till later in the morning, so there's no need for me to show up in the middle of the night. But eventually, there will come a time when every minute counts. But another issue that is unique to electric trucks is that when you move the truck after charging it, your rest period resets. So the driving time is interrupted. You can justify why you've done certain things. For example, if you've exceeded your time because you were stuck in traffic or couldn't find a parking spot. The more detailed your documentation is, the less hassle you'll have. My driving instructor always said, document everything and you'll have the least amount of stress. I'm curious to see how they'd react if I wrote, rest period interrupted because I had to move the electric truck from the charging station. Will they accept it? I guess I'll find out in a future video, but not today. We wanted to talk about costs, so let's compare the tour we just drove with a diesel truck. We started in Leer with 100% battery, charged twice at Ionity, and then ended up in Nuremberg with enough battery to get to Munich. Looking at these 2 charging sessions, you can see they cost about €200. Considering we were still half full in Munich, we could have started at half capacity. If we add another 250 kilowatt hours at 20 cents, that adds another €50. So the operating costs for the truck were €250 or $273. There are no tolls or other costs involved. I asked dispatch what the diesel and tolls would have cost, and they said it would have been around €670 or $732. Of course, the electric truck is more expensive up front, but these operating costs add up. Many trucks drive an average of around 100,000 kilometers or 60,000 miles per year. With the calculations from this trip, the electric truck is 70 cents per kilometer or $1.23 per mile cheaper. So you can save around €70,000 or $74,000 every year. It's Friday now, and I've already been in Austria, south of Kufstein, and I picked up a toll device that's required there. In Germany, the truck doesn't have to pay tolls, but in Austria, it does, although it's much cheaper than for diesel trucks. I've already unloaded, cleaned up the trailer, and I'm basically done with my tour. I've wrapped everything up and can now head into the weekend. I'm driving the truck to my hometown, where I'll do one more charge at an Ionity station we have there. After that, I'll just wait for instructions on what's next from Monday. I'd say the Scania has passed this trip with flying colors. Here in Austria, it's even more efficient. It's funny how the consumption keeps going down, even though I'm driving through the mountains. But yeah, that's it for this week. But next week, we're getting a new vehicle, which will be even more exciting than this one. Have a great weekend and see you next time.